The superhot furnace that burned an enormous amount of coal over 40 years near Boardman, Oregon, is dark tonight. It was the only place in the state where coal was burned to make electricity. The owner, Portland General Electric, shut it down for good in mid-October. I visited the plant in October of 2019, which is why you won't see anyone wearing COVID masks or socially distancing in this video. One of the workers sorry to see Boardman go was there at the beginning, Dave Bolz.
Wintertime, summertime, when they really need the power, we're always running. We're there, so it's been knowing that we've been providing this for Portland General Electric and the city of Portland, basically, all electricity, personal pride in that accomplishment.
Coal plants are dirty for the environment, but they are also dependable, much more dependable than wind or solar or hydro sources. Yet major utilities are making the move to those renewables, pressured by consumers, lawsuits, and cheaper renewable energy. Still, the Boardman shutdown was no doubt a sad day for the 110 employees who worked here when it was fully staffed.
So what's it like having Boardman officially closed now?
Well, I think for the employees at the plant and many people who have worked with the Boardman plant at PGE over the course of the last 40 years, it's bittersweet.
Spokesman Steve Corson points out the utility and its workers knew the end was coming for the past 10 years after PGE agreed to the shutdown as part of an environmental lawsuit with the Sierra Club. Sasha Kearns battles coal around the Northwest for the Sierra Club and told me last year it is important to shut down this plant.
And so when you think about the entirety of the nation's coal fleet, it's pretty significant to have the only coal plant that exists in Oregon to be coming offline.
You couldn't tell by looking at the smokestack, but the Boardman coal plant did pump out between 1.5 and 2 million tons of carbon dioxide a year, all of it invisible. That made it the single biggest point of greenhouse pollution in Oregon. But it's also tiny when you consider worldwide carbon emissions from coal plants in 2018 totaled 10 gigatons. That's 10 billion metric tons.
Isn't that just a drop in the ocean?
Well, you might think about a drop in the ocean, but the ocean is comprised of drops, right? And so when you think about the entirety of the nation's coal fleet, it's pretty significant to have the only coal plant that exists in Oregon to be coming offline.
And a coal plant is comprised of tons of coal. Boardman burned a special low sulfur coal to cut down on pollution. The plant went through lots of it, 5.5 tons a minute when it was running. Boardman typically had 500,000 tons on the ground waiting to burn. You can see there, especially on the left side of the picture, it's nearly all gone now. The coal was brought in using trains 100 cars long from the Powder River Basin mines in southeast Montana and northeast Wyoming. When you hold it, it feels surprisingly light, sort of like pieces of burned wood left over in a fireplace. Inside the plant, machines pulverize it into a fine powder. Then it's sprayed into a boiler, it's a big furnace, where it burns and heats water up above. The heated water turns into steam, which spins a turbine that turns a generator and makes electricity. When the plant was running full out, as it was when I toured in 2019, it created enough power for 500,000 homes each moment that it's running. Now that power source is gone.
It's a big gap to fill, but it is one that we're confident that we can fill, both in terms of the near term, the resources that we've got lined up now, and over that longer term as well.
PGE will buy extra hydropower over the next 5 years to replace that lost coal power. It's still working on what happens after that. Boardman is the first but not the last coal plant to close in the West. Over 8 years, 12 plants will shut down, taking down enough dependable coal electricity to power 3.8 million homes. Instead, the power companies will rely on renewable resources, which will be good for the environment, but not nearly as dependable. Experts say we will have a 1 in 4 chance of blackouts by the year 2026.
Pat Doerr's joining us now. So, Pat, 2 questions right off the bat. What happens to the people who work there? Did they all get laid off? And then secondly, kind of broader, what does this mean for the average PGE customer? Are they going to notice anything on their bill? What will people notice from their homes now that this plant is closed?
Okay, first thing on the employees. They've known this is coming for 10 years, and there were about 110 people working there when it was at its height. About a third of those have moved on to other jobs. There are other people who are retiring, and there's going to be maybe 20 or so
it's my understanding, who are going to be laid off. There are still people working there right now as they continue to decommission it. Sometime in 2021, by the way, they're going to turn it over to a demo company, and the whole place is going to be torn down. Now, as far as customers, I'm told the customers won't see this on their bills right away because Boardman did have a cost associated with it, and those costs are going to go away. But there's a new cost of finding the power to replace the Boardman coal energy. And so it's unclear exactly where that all shakes out yet.
So we don't know if bills are going to go up, if they're going to go down, if they're going to stay the same. And
Correct.
there seems to be a lot of kind of unknowns. And here we are closing this plant. So the plan is moving forward with a lot of unknowns on the horizon. Is there a fear that maybe this is all happening too quickly, or are those just the types of risks you have to take if you want to move forward and start operating with cleaner energy?
Well, it's a great question. And the answer is it depends on who you ask. There are some who say we are going way too fast and we are rushing headlong into rolling blackouts because in the dead of winter, when the wind's not blowing and the temperatures are cold and people are demanding more energy for their furnaces, we can have some problems. And in the middle of the summer, same thing. When you have a scorching heat wave and the wind's not blowing and there's not very much water to run the hydro, there are a lot of folks who say there could be trouble. On the other side, there are people who say, look, we are really quickly ruining this planet that we live on. And if we don't do something immediate and drastic to get these greenhouse gases under control, it's going to be too late. Some people saying it's kind of sort of already too late. And so there's a big belief that the engineers will figure things out as far as battery storage or storing water and having reusable hydro, that kind of thing. And that we might as well go to the future now because there is lots of sun when the sun is shining. There's lots of wind when the wind's blowing. The key is, can you harvest it and save it for when it's not happening?
Okay. The pressure is on. Hopefully it creates innovation. Pat, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. My pleasure.